Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a hidden threshold that artificial intelligence is currently crossing. We're going to look at exactly how AI is transforming from just a helpful productivity tool into the literal critical infrastructure that's holding up our modern world. It's a quiet shift, but honestly, it is an absolutely massive one.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering beyond productivity, the quiet shift underway, crossing the line without ownership, AI as utilities, and finally, preparing to break. Let's jump right in.
Starting with Section 1, Beyond Productivity. We really need to challenge our deeply ingrained mental model of what AI actually is. Notice the stark contrast in how we typically view risk here. We intuitively know that a power grid failure is a massive, immediate public crisis, right? It threatens our basic survival. Yet, for some reason, we still tend to treat AI like this eager digital intern, a handy chatbot to draft our emails or summarize a long document. We frame it entirely around commercial convenience and time saved. But as you'll see, that framing is dangerously outdated.
Moving on to Section 2, the quiet shift underway. Because just like email and cloud computing before it, AI is quietly transitioning into an essential backbone without anyone formally blowing a whistle to declare it.
Let me give you a fascinating real-world example from the UK. The NHS in England is currently deploying new AI tools to over 500,000 clinicians and support staff. And the early trials? They are incredibly promising. They show that AI-powered administrative support can save an average of 43 minutes per person every single day. I mean, that is a massive amount of time freed up for actual patient care. But here is the catch, and it's a big one. What starts as a pure productivity win eventually solidifies into a strict operational dependency. Once those 43 minutes a day are permanently built into your workforce planning, losing that AI isn't just an inconvenience anymore. It becomes a systemic loss of capacity. If your service assumes the AI is going to handle the drafting, the summarization, and the scheduling, well, losing it means you can no longer meet your basic operational baseline.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, Crossing the Line. How do we objectively know when an AI system has crossed over from being a handy little tool on your desktop to being essential infrastructure?
It all boils down to one word: dependency. You see, critical infrastructure isn't defined by its physical size or even who owns it. It's defined by what happens when it goes away. AI becomes infrastructure when essential services are redesigned entirely around it. And its failure creates the systemic exposure that affects safety, access, or just the basic functioning of the state. It isn't about the AI being super powerful, it's about us being unable to function without it.
So, to evaluate this shift in your own organization, we can apply a simple 4-part test. First up, ask yourself, does your workforce depend on AI just to keep the lights on? Has a material proportion of your staff become completely dependent on these tools to perform routine work at the expected speed or volume? If your productivity baseline now relies on the AI being there, yep, it's crossing the line.
Second, consider your public-facing or mission-critical services. Do they depend on AI? A great example from our source material is the UK government funding an AI triage tool in the NHS app, which is rolling out by 2028 to direct patients to the right medical service. Now, a tool used to draft an internal memo is one thing, but an AI system deciding how a citizen accesses healthcare, that is absolutely infrastructure.
Third, you need to run the ultimate stress test on your organization. Could you operate safely and effectively if your AI capabilities completely vanished for a day or, say, a whole week? If the answer is no, or if you could only operate with severe, catastrophic disruption, then your AI has firmly moved way beyond optional augmentation.
And finally, the fourth question looks at the ripple effect. What is the societal impact of a failure? Modern infrastructure is highly interconnected. So if your AI goes down, does it harm citizens, disrupt patients, damage market confidence, or compromise security at a meaningful scale? The higher the public consequence of a failure, the stronger the case that you are dealing with critical infrastructure. Now, if an organization answers yes to those questions, they face a very unique and somewhat terrifying problem. Let's look at Section 4, Without Ownership, and the opaque AI chain.
Think about a traditional power station for a second. You can point right at it. You know exactly who owns it, and you know who regulates it. AI, on the other hand, is incredibly opaque. Just follow the dependency chain here. An AI-backed public service might use a local vendor's app, which communicates through an API, basically a digital bridge, to a cloud provider's server. That server relies on a foundation model built by a totally different tech giant, and it's all powered by international data centers.
Your local healthcare service could theoretically go offline because a data center an ocean away got too hot. If a failure happens, the public blames the service provider, but the technical dependency is this tangled global web.
And this perfectly illustrates another major challenge: the actual nature of the failure itself. A traditional IT outage is dramatic. You get a 404 error, and boom, everything stops. But an AI failure, it's often really subtle and creeping. The system might still technically be online, but the quality degrades, or maybe the provider quietly alters their safety settings. It is less like a sudden explosion and more like a slow, silent gas leak. Users might not even detect at first that the AI is making worse decisions. And in the world of AI, that creeping degradation can be just as dangerous as a complete blackout.
Because of this hidden systemic risk, we arrive at Section 5, AI as utilities. This poses a massive regulatory question. Should we treat AI providers like utilities?
Now, obviously, AI companies aren't water or gas companies, and excessive regulation could totally stifle innovation. But when a handful of tech companies become operationally essential to critical sectors, we can't just cross our fingers and rely on bilateral commercial contracts. As frameworks like the EU AI Acts and the US National Institute of Standards and Technology are already beginning to suggest, operationally essential AI providers may soon need to carry utility-like obligations. We're talking about crucial public interest duties, things like mandatory incident reporting, strict resilience standards, and portability requirements so you aren't locked into a single point of failure.
So what do we actually do about all this? That brings us to our final part, Section 6, Preparing to Break. We absolutely must answer these governance questions right now because the absolute worst time to discover your AI as critical infrastructure is right in the middle of a national outage. To survive this shift, organizations need a clear blueprint today. First, you have to map out all those hidden dependencies we just talked about. Then, classify your tools. A meeting summarizer is obviously not in the same league as a clinical triage tool. From there, define your AI off modes. Ensure your procurement contracts actually allow you to port your data to a new system if you have to. And finally, continuously monitor the AI long after deployment to account for how these models evolve over time.
I want to really zoom in on step 3 for a second, because defining an AOF operating mode is perhaps your single most vital action item. This doesn't mean rejecting AI. Not at all. It means having absolute clarity on exactly what stops, what slows down, and precisely what manual processes take over the second the AI fails or degrades. You have to design your services to benefit from AI, sure, but remain fully capable of surviving without it.
Which leaves us with this final, critical thought to ponder as we wrap up today's explainer. AI dependency is rapidly becoming a matter of resilience, security, and continuity. So the question is, will we recognize this quiet shift and prepare right now, governing it as the infrastructure it is? Or will we wait until our invisible new infrastructure breaks, forcing us to learn the hard way? Thank you so much for joining me for this analysis.